in this community. We thank you even now for moving by the power of your spirit in this house for over 100 years. We bless you, Lord, that what you're doing right now is building upon what you've already done. We ask that you help us to connect with your moves in the past. Help us to connect with those who lived here before. Help us to connect with the challenges and struggles so that we can be encouraged to overcome them together. We ask that you would have your way in this Antioch homecoming, and those of us who are here, those of us who are watching online, those who are giving and taking oral histories, those who will watch the videos later. We thank you, Father, for what you're doing in this community, and we say have your way even now in Yeshua's name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for our Antioch homecoming. This is our second annual homecoming. And of course, last year, we called it Antioch Week. This year is Antioch Homecoming to really commemorate the homecomings that used to happen here years ago in this church, and of course are still even happening in churches throughout the region. And so I'm blessed that you're here. I'm Apostle Marquita Brooks. I lead the Truth in the Spirit, and we are now stewards of this historic Baptist church. There's so much history here, so much power in the Spirit, and it's central to what God is doing in the region to secure and preserve the historicity of the area. And so I'm blessed and excited that we are here, those who are part of Truth in the Spirit in Antioch, and also Fairfield Foundation is here with us. Also, those who have been a part of this community for years. Reverend Warren is here from First Baptist. And so just blessing God for the coming together of this community. And so we're going to have a wonderful afternoon. And so I want to share with you all what's going to be happening today. Dr. Dave Brown is going to be sharing with us Fairfield's current initiative. What's going on with Fairfield, how we can connect with Fairfield. He's going to update us on what's happening with the foundation, because they're actually doing quite a bit. Oftentimes we talk about just a little bit of what's happening with Fairfield, but Fairfield is actually just reaching out and doing a lot. So we're going to hear from him first. Then we're going to have another praise dance. And then Reverend Warren is going to share with us from First Baptist Church, the history of that church, because the churches in this region are very much connected to each other and connected to the community. And so we want to hear that history. And then we're going to go into a family circle led by Beth Pruitt, who is going to bring us to the table as a part of Come to the Table. And we will actually experience that together as you have seen, those who have been a part of it, descendants of the enslaved and descendants of those who had slaves. We're going to come together, even for those of us who aren't descendants. We are going to come together with the family and share and experience together. Then we'll have some refreshments and fellowship as we did last night. And so for those of you who are in the Zoom or watching the recording, you'll be able to hear the speakers in the Zoom. You'll actually be able to join us in the Zoom for the family circle, but we won't record it, so we'll have the safe space for the family circle. But everything else will be recorded, except the praise dances, just because the music is copyrighted. And so I want to turn it over to Dave Brown at this time so he can update us on Fairfield Foundation. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, everybody. It is an absolute honor for me to be here today, to be sharing some of what we've been doing here at Fairfield, and also just to be a part of this. I was sincerely I felt really guilty about missing it last year. It was vacation time, and at the same time, it still felt like I really should have been here. And so I'm grateful that you welcomed me back, even though I missed the first time. I wanted to go ahead and to share a few things. First and foremost, a point of appreciation. When we started Fairfield back in 2000, we had a vision of working as a collaborative and community-focused organization. It hasn't necessarily gone in that direction as quickly as we first thought. As a couple of 25-year-olds, Thane and I were both trying to find ways to run our organization, but also to be more community-centered while not quite understanding exactly what to do. And so there's always a point of gratitude that we appreciate everyone who was patient with us as we learned how to become more involved and involved in a respectful way, involved in a way that elevated others, not just ourselves. And I'd like to think that the collaboration that we have today, not just with Antioch Church, not with the Truth in the Spirit, not just with the descendants of the Piney Swamp area and the African-American communities at Rosewell and Fairfield and Timberneck, But everybody together, their grace with us, their patience with us will forever be appreciated. And we hope that our work can go ahead and elevate all of us in ways that will bring these stories to permanent understanding. Also, a quick thanks to Sarah, who put together some wonderful words for me to read this afternoon. If I do flub any of them, that's on me, that's not Sarah. So welcome. We do this to share and learn more about the area's history. Communicating with people is at the heart of everything that we do. It's not just tiny broken fragments of pottery in the ground. It's not just the oral histories, although those are crucial. It's not just buildings and archaeological sites. The people are what makes this special. We do this to invite those stories and to give an oral history. Oral histories are, in fact, no matter what anyone else says, the most precious resources that we have, because it is the clearest and direct connection with human beings. And so we always are choosing between the different activities we do, but oral histories will be forever at our hearts, not just because they are essential to understanding the past, but they are an essential testament to our preservation of the present and our preservation of the future. Oral histories help us fill in the blanks by learning from you about the unrecorded histories of the largely African-American community that grew up after emancipation on lands that were once part of large local plantations like Fairfield, Roswell, and Timberneck. We do these things to encourage others to share their known histories. Many of you often would think, at least I'm going to project here, that you're not suitable for an oral history. What you've done in life is not worthy of recording an oral history. And I will tell you that is not true. What we are looking for and what you have experienced are the same. We are looking for everyday life. We are looking for exceptional moments of grace and love, but also heartbreak and tragedy, struggle and victory. All of these things are important to us because it is what makes up every day. We do this to share information about our research also, because we think these conversations, as we listen, should also be paired with things where we hope to share so as to learn. We are always in a position of learning, and we are grateful for those who are willing to spend time with us in that process. We are especially grateful for last night. From what I heard, it was extremely interesting, extremely helpful, not just for us, but I think everyone there enjoyed it. Lori Jackson Black told us about research over the last couple of years on the enslaved and free Black communities associated with Timberneck. And we're hoping with each of these homecomings into the future, we're able to share something new and that you guys can teach us through those things that we've shared. Fairfield is located just around the corner from here. It's our flagship property. It's why we're named what we're named. At the Fairfield Archaeology Park, we work with local students, interns, and fellows from all over the United States and internationally, and adult lifelong learners to teach them how to look at history through the lens of archaeology. In fact, I was just there this morning with pre-college students from across the country and the world here as part of a different program that we collaborate with at the College of William. So they got to experience archaeology, but they got to share their time with us, what their expectations were, and hopefully we'll come back next Saturday as we repeat the process. We do that 4 times a summer and have been for 23 out of the 25 years we've been in existence. So happy to continue that. Working with our young folks is a dynamic process, one that we are often enthused by just by being in association with that. But archaeology, how do we learn about things through archaeology? Honestly, it's not that complicated, but it also reminds us that we can learn a lot by experiencing the process of discovery, by learning about the objects that we recover, and then feeling empathy for people in the past. When I pick up a fragment of a nail, I understand what that means. I understand because I've learned about how it's manufactured, but I understand that that manufacturer isn't exclusively the one example that I have. Many people made that nail. Many people used that nail. That nail traveled. That nail came and was used, it was reused, it was discarded. It has parallels to life, but also has parallels to how we understand people in days where are not recorded by the standard historical document. You don't hear about the time when the guy hit his thumb with a hammer. You just don't. But you can sometimes see it in the process of looking at that nail. One of the students pulled it up to me today and said, "What's this?" And the nail was hooked at the end. And I was saying, well, when I was a kid, people used to say those were the nails they hooked clothing onto, and that they had them curved at the end so that they could operate both to hang clothing as well as to fasten boards together. And that, my friends, is silly. Because if that's the case, there are millions of fragments of garment that are in everyone's home. What that means is actually that they had a nail, and it was a one-size-fits-all nail, and they got sick and tired of scraping their head up against it. And so they clinched that nail. And they turned it around, and that little bit of story brought that student's eyes to me, and the realization that there were two stories that could come from that nail, and that they felt somehow infused with knowledge and a certain understanding about the past, as such that maybe they themselves have also bonked their head into a nail before and wished that it was clinched. So sometimes history can be silly. Sometimes it can be a little bit of empathy. We try to bring all of those things together to understand that there's also evidence of struggle. And that struggle and that individuality, the understanding of people and the choices that they made, brings a certain humanity to what we do. So that when we find those objects, so that when we understand the history through the documents, that tactile understanding is crucial to feeling like we understand and can become better. Although our organization is involved in many archaeology and history studies across the Middle Peninsula region today, the legacy of Fairfield Plantation and its community has been and remains the heart of our organization's work. And now that we are managing both the Rosewell Plantation site as well as the Timberneck House, we make sure that those communities are a part of what we try to build and bond together. Last year, we purchased, just as relevance to this site in particular, 10 acres from across the street. What has been forest will remain as forest. As you walk out of the building and you look across, that acreage is under our control and will continue in the state that you see it today. You can learn and see more about the work that we're doing in preserving this acreage and then also making it of public use. The funds that we were given to purchase those acres came from the Virginia Outdoors Foundation, and their expectation is that there would be an increase in public use of that. Not to the point at which it's where everyone goes every Saturday afternoon and that you see a constant stream of people, but that the nature and the history of that location as part of the Piney Swamp community will benefit others around us. And so increased use means that it stays in a wonderfully preserved condition, and it will because it's protected by an historic preservation easement, but then also that folks can walk trails in that area. They can commute, they can have times of quiet, but also they can have times of connection with their family and friends as they enjoy that environment. And hopefully in the future, we'll learn through archaeology what activities took place there, because a spot like that may be just as important as the Manor House at Fairfield or the quarters that we find along the road leading into the plantation. These are all important spaces and worthy. Our vision is to create a Piney Swamp Ancestors Trail. For us, making sure that we're looking at the acreage we own to the north of that, but also other acreages that connect and help highlight the history of those who lived in this community before us is absolutely essential. Trail walkers will learn along the way from the series of signs that tell stories we learn from oral histories about people who once made up the Piney Swamp community, many of whom are buried in the Antioch Church Cemetery. And so for us, this brings attention. It also brings some consistency and security to this area so that folks can guarantee that will be here in perpetuity. We'll also include signs that point out aspects of the natural environment. It's important for us that we're not always just focused on one aspect of what people can learn from, but to broaden our minds and to incorporate it all. A lot of our work has been concentrated on the Piney Swamp community that's centered on Cedar Bush and Providence Roads on the former Fairfield Plantation land where historic Antioch Baptist Church, founded in 1922, remains today as the only public building in this once thriving hometown that we celebrate with this homecoming. Our GIS specialist, Nathaniel Glasgow, is here with us today and studies the maps and the deeds and has made terrific progress on developing and understanding community as it is connected with property ownership, but also the cemeteries here and with our fellow congregations, with the hope that we might take advantage of funding programs and to the betterment of the maintenance of those resources that for long times have been neglected from those at the state and the federal level. Our hope is to leverage those with the needs of the community to produce a positive benefit, both for the congregations, but also for all of us connected to them. Our historians, Sarah Lewis, Lori Black, volunteer Jennifer Anderson, are particularly intrigued by the connections that can be made and information that can be gleaned using genealogy and transcriptions of original documents related to Piney Swamp and the surrounding community. And you might think to yourself that history is fairly static. We all know when Abraham Lincoln was born and when he died, and what else is there to learn about history? I will tell you this as an historian, as an archaeologist, as somebody who loves to work with people in discovering things, that the historians will always tell you history is fluid. History is always going to teach us something new. And it is as much about us and how we experience it now that we learn from history, that those documents speak, and that we understand that new discoveries are just waiting as we improve as human beings, to understand them in the way that they can truly help us learn and become better people. Another important initiative that has grown out for a long time is a long-time interest in telling the whole story of what was once Fairfield Plantation, is the Fairfield Foundation Family Circle, an affiliate of the National Coming to the Table organization, where participants meet regularly through truth-telling, for truth-telling, building relationships, healing, and taking action to dismantle inequitable systems and structures based on race. In addition to borough connections, both Black and white, many members are also trace Black and white family roots to other properties, both Timberneck and Rosewell, but also beyond. So we don't really draw an exclusive line on the outside of things. We try to become a welcoming place. Not that we're looking to add additional properties under our umbrella. 5 is a lot right now to handle, so we're going to try to focus on those. We can help others, and that is always a great benefit to us, seeing others succeed. Others are related to other sites of enslavement in Gloucester, or are interested in meeting with local groups to share more about the legacy of slavery and our nation's need to tell the truth about the inequitable systems that keep us from acknowledging the humanity of all. And in this day and age, it's even more important. The circle meeting starts with a 10-minute spotlight on relevant issues or genealogy. Beth Pruitt, who's here with us today, will be conducting a shortened version of the Coming to the Table meeting later on with our agenda. Our regular meetings are held at the Woodville Rosenwald School just down the road, also on historic Fairfield Plantation land, and via Zoom on the second Tuesday nights monthly, except June and August. So FYI, and you're invited to attend. Beyond that, I wanted to make sure I open myself up to any questions that any of you might have. If those of you online or are watching this later, you can reach us directly at the following email address. That's fairfield@fairfieldfoundation.org. Or you can reach us at 804-815-4467. That's our cell phone number for our work. And if we can be of any assistance to you or answer your questions, please let us know. But for those of you in the room, if there are any questions that you have about our current undertakings, I have a few things at the end just to wrap it up before transition, but happy to answer questions. Okay, so my last little bits would be that through the great work of Sarah Lewis, who wrote the grant and did an amazing job with really being able to bring together a lot of our priorities when it comes to development. We have this amazing offer from the state of Virginia to go ahead and do a lot of improvement to public access at Fairfield. So for those of you who go down and see the site itself, soon you should go see it because our signs are absolutely horrible. Our signs are in the worst shape. They've been there for 20 years. They've been sun bleached. They're difficult to read. But the grant that she helped us secure is essentially going to help pay for new signage at Fairfield. If you're fascinated by old ruins, the Fairfield ruin, which has this remarkable cover over it, will have walkways that go so that you can actually walk into the house and look down. We hope to have those in place by the fall. We also have additional funds that help contribute towards a bathroom that will be on site. It's an amazing thing that Sarah researched, where essentially there's solar power and it's got running water in it, and it has no impact on the ground, so we could even move it if we had to, but it does take a huge forklift in order to do it. So no worries about that. This can probably stay in the same place for a while. But as a place that accommodates folks who are wanting to visit and feel welcome, I think ultimately she's taken to heart the comments and discussions we've had as a group for years, which is how do we make this a more welcoming place? Those signs that we're going to replace, those will be in line with and involve members of the community in their design and their writing. And that's largely because Sarah has really made an emphasis to try to make that real. And so I'm very grateful, not only for everyone who's participating, but Sarah in particular for putting the emphasis on that to make sure that the conversations don't involve a rubber stamp by community members at the end, but that we're building this from a foundation that starts with community. doesn't just ask for tacit approval. So for us, that's meaningful. We're grateful. We're doing some similar things at Rosewell. If any of you enjoy that site, the bathroom was already delivered there last week. We hear it's very exciting, but also, I mean, how much can you get excited about a bathroom? I guess it depends on how you feel it. So with that, I figured I will go ahead and cede the stage. Please, ma'am.
And so my ancestors were Morels,
Oh, yes.
and they were part of the Pine Swamp area. So what you're saying, the foundation is a part of Pine Swamp?
So we've been studying the Piney Swamp community through documents, but also reaching out to descendants. And so Sarah and Nathaniel can talk to the specifics, but there are several individuals who have reached out to us, and it's been wonderful to learn through their family histories, but also oral histories that have been passed along through them about both life in the Piney Swamp community in the past, as well as, you know, their desires for how they want to see it in the future. I know a lot of the land has left those descendant members' hands. And so one of our goals was to go ahead and to look at the potential of trying to preserve some of this landscape intact. I mean, it's not entirely lost if somebody builds a house on the property. This is the part of life. Buildings are built, buildings come down. But we know that there's a lot of history archaeologically, but also just by experiencing those places, that if we can preserve, perhaps it will be of greater benefit to the community. And so as a foundation, as a 501c3, we sometimes have more financial means to try to preserve landscapes. And our real goal is, if we were to do that, not just to lock up land for no good reason, but to have it as a public benefit to the community. And so that's always at the heart of our designs, whether it's land acquisition or it's trying to help with stabilizations of historic buildings, or just trying to make sure that homeowners have information that's easily accessible so they can pursue genealogy or building restoration or archaeology or whatever it is that they need. We have information that we'd love to share. And so anything we can do to help, or anything that you'd like to share with us, would be very much welcome. Fantastic. Anyone else have any questions? No, I'm excited for what's next. So I'll leave it back to you, and then I'll be around until about 4 o'clock. Sorry, 3 o'clock, and then my apologies for having to skip out. There's an arts festival I have to chair on this last day, so.
Awesome, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys at Fairfield Foundation, and just thank you, Dave and Sarah and Nathaniel and Beth. You know, you're working with them, and Nathaniel's not here. Just you guys are a real blessing, and I will share with you all because you're not privy. Some of you may not be privy to, you know, all of the work that they do and that gets done. You know, when Dave speaks about really wanting to involve the community and to find out, you know, what are the perspectives of those who are here, the organizations, the individuals, and to really, you know, make us a part of it, he's really serious about that. And everyone at Fairfield Foundation is serious about that. And so, you know, as they've involved Antioch, we've become real partners, you know, having the tough conversations, you know, going forward and really addressing issues on race and, you know, how to best move forward. You guys know, of course, some of the land that they were addressing and some of the properties we've been praying over. We've had dedications, and so there's been a real move in Fairfield to bring us in, and that has been a blessing. I remember when we were at the there was an event at William and Mary. What's the name of it? The Lemon Project. Yes, we were speaking of the Lemon Project. Afterward, actually I shared it during. We were speakers there. I shared it during that time that they really do what they say they do. They're actually about what they say they're about. And that's a real blessing because, you know, a lot of people say they're interested. I've been doing this work for 24 years. Many people say, hey, you know, we want to come alongside you and we care about what you think. We want to hear your perspective, and they do something with you and then they go off and, you know, as if they've heard you when they haven't. And so they really do listen, and, you know, you see it. The proof is in the pudding. In the way they conduct themselves, even seeking our opinion about, you know, how they're going to display artifacts. And I mean, it's just really, they really do involve us. So I want to encourage you guys, if this is something you care about, especially if you're a part of this community, to connect with the Fairfield Foundation, because your voice will be heard. They will hear you and they'll incorporate, you know, what's on your heart, what's important to your family. and you will be respected. I want to say that we want to do that here at Antioch as well. There's been lots of different leadership of this church, but it has gone by a lineage. Every pastor who passed on to another pastor knew that pastor in the spirit, like not just, in the manner of relationship, but really seeking God about who should be the next steward over this place, actually holding services. We actually do have services here. This is not just a historic building. This is a house of God. And so it's important to know that, but to know that we do care about those who are part of the congregations that were here before. And we want to bring all of that together, hence these homecomings. And so I'm blessed by us all coming together here. I'm excited about what we're going to do today. And so I'm actually going to pause for a moment because we're going to have another praise dance. And then we're going to hear from Reverend Warren about First Baptist Church. And so I'm going to move this out of the way so that then our dancers, our praise dancers, can worship the Lord.